Okay, think about this for a second. Next year, the money spent globally just on packaging for skincare, you know, the jars, tubes, pumps, all that stuff, it's expected to hit almost $35 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a massive industry kind of hidden in plain sight, touching pretty much all of us.
It really is. It makes you think, doesn't it? We focus so much on the creams and serums inside.
Exactly.
But the packaging itself is doing so much work, preserving the product, making it look good, shaping how we even see the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, that 35 billion figure, it shows it's a serious economic force.
Absolutely. So in this deep dive, we're basically unpacking a recent report that looks at this market. It forecasts things all the way out to 2033.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission really is to pull out the most interesting, most important stuff.
Yeah.
You know, where's this market going? What's pushing it? And, like, why should we even care?
Right. And we'll be looking at the main kinds of packaging, the classic jars, obviously, tubes are everywhere.
Yeah.
Bottles, pumps, dispensers, even those little single-use sachets.
And the materials, too.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into materials. Glass, which always feels kind of premium.
Definitely.
Paper and paperboard, which are getting bigger.
Meh.
And then, of course, plastics and metals.
And it's a global picture we're getting. The report breaks it down by continent: North America, Europe, Asia-Pacific, South America, Middle East, Africa.
Yep, with specific countries in there, too.
Okay, so let's jump in. The big picture first. How big are we talking exactly, and what's the growth looking like?
Okay, so that number for 2025 is estimated at 34.68 billion US dollars globally.
Right, nearly 35 billion.
But the growth path is, well, pretty interesting. The report projects it'll hit USD 50.849 billion by 2033.
50 billion. Wow.
Yeah, that works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of 4.90% between 2025 and 2033.
So CAGR. That's like the average growth each year over that whole period.
Exactly. Think of it as almost 5% growth year on average.
Okay, that's pretty steady, significant growth. And the report, it's using 2024 as the baseline.
That's right. Base year 2024, looking back at historical data from 21 to 24, gives us that 25 estimate, and then forecasts forward 25 through 33.
Got it. Okay, let's zoom in a bit. The regions.
Yeah.
What differences do we see around the world?
Well, the regional breakdown is quite revealing. North America, they currently have the biggest slice, over 40% of the whole market.
40%.
Yeah. For 2025, their market size is estimated at $12.831 billion.
Okay.
But their projected growth, that CAGR, is 3.4% from 2025 to 2033. So a bit more, let's say, measured compared to some other places.
Right, so dominant now, but maybe not the fastest growing.
Pretty much. It suggests other regions might be catching up faster in terms of expansion speed.
And inside North America, the U.S. is obviously the giant there.
Oh, absolutely. The U.S. market alone is expected to be $10.1241 billion in 2025, growing at 3.2% annually.
Yeah.
Canada's next at about $1.54 billion, but growing a little faster, 4.2% CAGR. And Mexico around $1.17 billion with a 3.9% growth rate.
So yeah, the U.S. leads, but Canada and Mexico are growing a bit quicker. Makes sense. What about Europe? Also a huge market, I assume.
You bet. Europe makes up over 30% of the global share. Their estimated size for 2025 is $10.0572 billion.
So number 2 after North America.
Right. And their projected CAGR at 4% is actually a little bit higher than North America's.
Oh, interesting. So indicating slightly faster growth.
Exactly. So while North America is bigger right now, Europe's growth rate is slightly outpacing it, closing the gap a little.
And within Europe, any standout?
Yeah, looking at specific countries.
Yeah.
The UK is projected at $1.69 billion for 2025, with a pretty solid 4.8% growth rate.
Yeah.
Germany is actually a bit larger in market size, almost $2 billion, $1.99 billion, with a 4.2% growth rate.
Right.
Then you've got France, about $925 million, growing at 3.2%. Italy, around $865 million, 3.4% growth.
Uh-huh.
Russia is, interestingly, quite large at $1.56 billion, but with slightly slower growth at 3%. And Spain's around $825 million, growing at 3.1%.
So it looks like the UK and Germany are kind of pulling the weight in terms of growth rate in Europe.
That's a fair observation, yeah. They seem to be key drivers there. Now, should we talk about Asia-Pacific, APEC?
Ah, yes. Because that's where the really fast growth is happening, isn't it?
That's exactly right. APAC holds about 23% of the global market in 2025. Size-wise, that's $8.3232 billion.
Okay.
So
Still smaller than Europe and North America for now.
for now. But here's the kicker. Their projected CAGR is 7.6%.
7.6. Wow, that's way higher than the others.
Significantly higher. It really suggests, a major shift where the future growth in this industry is really going to be concentrated.
So APAC is the growth engine.
Definitely seems that way. China, of course, is a huge piece of that. Projected market size of almost 3.5 billion in 2025
Right.
and a strong 7.1% CAGR. But check out India.
Yeah.
Their market is estimated around 832 million in 2025, so smaller than China's. But the growth rate, a massive 9.5%.
9.5. That's the highest country rate we've seen so far?
It is, according to this report. Japan is also very significant, over 1.1 billion, growing at 6.1%. South Korea, almost $1 billion, growing at 6.7%. And then you see Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, all showing really robust growth too, mostly in the 6 to 7% range.
Right.
And Southeast Asia as a whole region, an impressive 8.4% projected CAGR.
Okay, so that explosive growth in APAC really signals a big shift. The geographical center of this market seems to be moving.
I think that's a perfect way to put it.
What about the other regions, South America?
South America represents over 5% of the global market. Size is about 1.32 billion in 2025, and the growth is pretty healthy too, a CAGR of 5.6%.
Okay, decent growth. Any specific countries there?
Brazil leads the way, around 564 million market size, growing at 6.2%. Then Argentina, about 221 million, but with a slightly higher growth of 6.5%.
Interesting.
And Colombia, around 117 million, growing at 5.4%. So yeah, solid growth across the board there, really.
And the Middle East, how does that region look?
The Middle East is around 2% of the global market. Size is about 1.39 billion in 2025, so slightly larger than South America in value right now.
Right.
And their CAGR is actually quite strong too, 6.2%.
Higher than South America's overall rate.
Yeah. Saudi Arabia is the biggest market there, nearly 500 million, 488 million, growing at 6.5%. The UAE, around 286 million, growing even faster at 6.7%.
Wow.
Turkey, Qatar, Egypt, they're smaller, but also showing good CAGRs, mostly in the 6-7% range, except Qatar, which is a bit lower at 5.7%.
Got it. And finally, Africa.
Africa holds about 1% of the global share. Estimated size is around $763 million in 2025.
Okay, the smallest region by share.
Yeah, but still growing. Projected CGR is 5.2%. South Africa is the main player there, about 269 million, growing at 6.1%. Nigeria is much smaller, around 61 million, but growing at 5.4%.
So even the smallest regions are showing respectable expansion.
Absolutely. Growth seems pretty widespread, just at different speeds.
Okay, that gives us a fantastic global map. Now let's shift gears. What's actually driving all this growth? What are the key market drivers the report points to?
Well, probably the biggest one, unsurprisingly, is this rising consumer preference for eco-friendly materials and packaging that can be easily recycled.
Right. Sustainability.
Exactly. It's coming from, greater environmental awareness, definitely,
Yeah.
but also stricter government regulations pushing companies and corporations making their own sustainability commitments. People are actively looking for greener options. That includes the box or bottle it comes in.
Makes total sense. We see it everywhere.
Ah.
So how are companies responding to that demand?
Well, that leads to another driver. Enhancing brand competitiveness. The report highlights how companies are using smart designs, things like refillable containers,
Ah, yeah. Refillable.
biodegradable materials, things like that. It's partly to attract those eco-conscious consumers, obviously, but it's also about genuinely reducing waste.
So it's good marketing, but also good practice.
Ideally, yeah, a win-win. And it's not just about being green, is it? The luxury aspect is still important.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. That third driver is still the appeal of luxurious, personalized, high-quality packaging, especially for premium skincare.
Right.
That whole experience, the unboxing, the feel of the container, it still matters a lot for attracting certain consumers, the perceived value.
So those are the things pushing the market forward.
Yeah.
Did the report mention any roadblocks? Any restraints?
Yes, there's one main restraint highlighted. It's the increased cost associated with some of these sustainable materials.
Oh, okay. The price of going green.
Pretty much. Things like bioplastics or high-quality recycled paper, compostable options. They often cost more to produce.
Why that?
It can be down to limited supply chains, maybe more complex manufacturing processes, higher costs just to source the raw materials. So it presents a challenge for companies trying to balance sustainability goals with, keeping prices reasonable.
That's a really practical point.
Yeah.
It's not always easy or cheap to switch. Okay, let's talk trends. What are the big currents shaping the future look and feel of skincare packaging?
Well, building on the drivers, the strongest trend is definitely the growing demand for those eco-friendly materials and refillable designs. Sustainability isn't just a nice to have anymore. For many consumers, it's a top priority.
Yeah, it feels like table stakes now almost.
Kind of. And governments are reinforcing that with stricter rules. So you're seeing a big push towards biodegradable packaging, more plant-based materials, trying to design waste out of the whole process.
Minimal waste production
Okay.
and aesthetically. Any design trends standing out?
Yeah, especially in the premium market. The report points to sleek, clean, modern designs being dominant.
Minimalism.
Yeah, I think minimalism. High quality materials are key, glass, metal, but also those sustainable alternatives that still look and feel premium. Neutral colors, simple fonts, and packaging that just works really well. Seamless functionality, easy to use. And even for luxury consumers, that eco-conscious aspect is becoming part of the high-end appeal.
So luxury is becoming greener too. Interesting. Okay, this is clearly a big competitive market. What did the report say about the competitive landscape? Who are the main players?
It's definitely described as highly competitive, driven by, well, the constant demand for skincare products themselves and how crucial the right packaging is for success.
Right.
Key players, companies like Aptar Group, Amcor, HCP Packaging, they're really focusing hard on developing those eco-friendly materials and innovative designs to stay ahead.
So sustainability is a competitive advantage.
Absolutely. It's a major trend-shaping competition. And as we talked about with the regional growth, Asia-Pacific isn't just growing fast, it's also a dominant region overall because of that huge consumer base and rising incomes there.
And the report mentioned some recent news, some examples of this innovation in action.
Yeah, it did. It pointed to Dow introducing some new sustainable plastic grades back in October 23 using circular and renewable sources.
Okay.
Then in April this year, GEK launched a recycled plastic material specifically for cosmetic packaging.
Right.
And just last month, May 2024, Cosmopac brought out a whole line called Waves of Beauty focused on eco-friendly packaging.
So real examples of companies putting this stuff into practice.
Exactly. It shows the industry is actively moving in that direction.
And the list of companies involved is pretty long.
Oh, yeah, it's extensive. You've got Albea, HCP, RPC, which is now part of Berry Global, Silgan, DS Smith, Graham Packaging, Lebo Cosmetics, Aptar Group, Amcor, Cosmopac,
Wow.
Quadpac, Reek, Gerresheimer, Raypac, Ball Corporation, Verescence, SKS Bottle and Packaging, Altium Packaging. It really gives you a sense of how many companies are involved in this space. It's a complex ecosystem.
Definitely underscores the scale.
Oh,
Okay, it's got the market size, regions, drivers, trends, competition. Let's dig into the packaging itself.
Yeah.
How did the report break it down by type of packaging? Jars, tubes, etc.
Right. So looking at packaging type, the report says jars currently hold the biggest market share.
Jars. Okay, why is that?
Well, it seems to be down to a few things. Innovative designs are possible with jars. They often use quality materials that give that premium feel. There's a growing focus on making jars more sustainable. They can really enhance a brand's image, and you can customize them quite a bit. People often associate jars with, quality or luxury.
Yeah, that makes sense. They often feel more substantial.
Yeah.
But I think the report mentioned another type that's growing really fast.
That's right. Tubes are flagged as the fastest growing segment.
Tubes. Okay, what's driving their growth?
It's really about convenience, cost effectiveness. Tubes are generally cheaper to make than jars.
Right.
Plus, there are more and more sustainable options coming out, recyclable tubes, even biodegradable ones. They also protect the product well, allow for controlled dispensing.
Yeah, you just squeeze out what you need.
Exactly. And they're usually more travel-friendly. So lots of practical reasons why tubes are gaining ground fast.
Okay, so jars led, but tubes are the ones really picking up speed. Now, what about the materials used? Glass, plastic, paper.
Looking at material types, glass is currently the dominant material.
Still glass. Interesting.
Yeah, largely because of that premium perception we talked about. Consumers link glass with higher quality.
Right.
Plus, it's highly sustainable in principle, 100% recyclable, reusable, and it's inert, non-reactive, so it doesn't interfere with the skincare formula inside.
Good point.
And they're making strides with lightweight glass technology, too, making it less heavy and clunky.
So glass is king for now.
Huh.
But is anything challenging it? Anything else growing fast in materials?
Yes, interestingly, paper and paperboard are seeing really rapid growth in this market.
Paper for skincare, how does that work?
Well, it's driven by that strong consumer demand for sustainable alternatives.
Hmm.
Paper and paperboard are seen as biodegradable, easily recyclable, maybe even compostable. It fits well with those minimalist, natural premium trends, and the technology for barrier coatings is getting better, so paper can now protect more types of products
Yeah.
effectively.
So they can make it resistant enough for creams and things.
Increasingly, yes. So it suggests a real potential shift towards these more renewable fiber-based materials. Lots of versatility in design, too.
Fascinating. So the material side is also clearly shifting towards sustainability. Last breakdown area, application. Where is all this packaging actually being used? Which product categories dominate?
According to the report, the hand care segment is currently the largest application.
Hand care. Really?
Yeah, apparently driven mainly by that increased awareness around hand hygiene, especially, since the pandemic. Big surge in demand for hand cream, sanitizers.
Of course. That
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. A very direct impact from recent events.
Definitely.
And any other application area growing particularly fast?
Yes, the report identifies depilatories hair removal products as a rapidly growing sector for packaging.
Depilatories. Okay.
Oh.
Why them?
It seems to be linked to consumer preferences shifting towards more convenient hair removal methods at home. And that's pushing innovation in packaging for those products, making them easier to use, more effective, and again, more sustainable.
Right. Makes sense. Okay. Wow. We've covered a huge amount of ground here. Let's try to wrap it up. What are the absolute key takeaways from this deep dive into skincare packaging?
I think the main things to remember are, first, the sheer size and the really impressive growth trajectory of this market. Nearly $35 billion next year, heading towards over $50 billion by 2033.
That's huge.
Second, that undeniable, powerful push towards sustainability. It's affecting everything: the materials used, the designs like refillables, company strategies. It's central.
Right. Sustainability is key.
And third, the regional dynamics. North America is the biggest market now, but Asia Pacific is where the fastest growth is happening by far. Suggests a kind of rebalancing globally.
Okay. Size, sustainability, and the APAC growth surge.
Yeah.
And what about the specifics of the packaging itself?
Yeah, key takeaways there. Jars are dominant now, but tubes are the fastest growing type, driven by convenience and sustainability efforts.
Got it. Jars, lead, tubes grow fast.
For materials, glass is still number one, valued for that premium feel and recyclability.
Yeah.
But paper and paperboard are coming up fast as a sustainable alternative.
Glass, leads, paperboard rising.
And for applications, hand care is currently the biggest segment, likely due to hygiene focus.
Right.
While depilatories are the fastest growing application area.
Perfect summary. A massive dynamic market, really transforming with sustainability right at the heart of it and growth happening all over the globe. That's a lot to take in. So what does this mean for you, the listener, when you pick up your moisturizer?
Well, maybe just take a second to look at the packaging itself. That jar, that tube,
Yeah.
it represents this multi-billion-dollar industry that's constantly evolving, trying to respond to what you want: products that work, look good, and are increasingly better for the planet. The choices made about that container reflect these huge global trends in materials, design, and environmental awareness.
That's a really great way to think about it.
Yeah.
And it leads us perfectly into our final thought for today. Considering all these trends we've discussed, the focus on sustainability, the new materials, the refill systems, the regional shifts, how might the actual look and feel of your favorite skincare products change in the next few years? It's definitely something to mull over, isn't it?
Yeah.
As we potentially see more plant-based plastics, maybe more paper-based containers, certainly more minimalist designs, it's this really fascinating crossroads of beauty, material science, and our collective push for a more sustainable future.